Hey y'all, welcome back to Coffee and Composition. I'm April Sojourner Truth Walker for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, and I'm the president of A Little More Truth LLC. And this is our series to take the woes out of your next writing assignment. And we're dealing with sentences this fall. All about sentences is what we are focusing on, and we are nearing the end of our series, but we're going to not let the series end without going into compound complex sentences. I know you're probably like, what? Compound complex? I thought we had compound. I thought we had complex. And now you're telling me they come together and get married to make compound complex? Yes, I am telling you that because I love me some compound complex sentences. My students love them some compound complex sentences, and my clients love compound complex sentences. They're all over the place. When we write, we tend to just feel like we have to get everything out in one sentence, which we don't. And there's a way to use them and a time to use them. And that's what we're going to be working on today. So as always, we're going to grab our coffees and get started. So let me share my screen. Hopefully we don't have any technical difficulties this time. And as always, if you need any help from us, we are here. We've got you. We know admission season is nearing the end. And if you still need help with that, we have a video lecture recording for you that you can purchase. But if you need help just with writing in general, be sure to check out our website to see which package may be a good fit for you. So, compound complex sentences. What are they? It's a sentence with two or more independent clauses and one or more subordinate clauses. So when do I use them? It's best to use them when you have ideas that are stronger together than apart as simple sentences. So if you remember me talking at the beginning of the fall about the simple sentences, they're when you really want to add emphasis, you want to get to a point very quickly. A simple sentence is solid for that. And then a complex sentence is good for when you want to emphasize a specific part of one sentence. And then a compound sentence is good when you have two ideas that are better together. So a compound complex sentence ties those ideas all together into one sentence. So let's look at some examples of simple sentences first. These may look like they're compound complex because they're all together, but they're just a series of simple sentences. So the first series of simple sentences are, we argued last night. You wanted to go for ice cream. I wanted to go to the movies because it was my turn to pick. So simple sentence, we argued last night. Simple sentence, you wanted to go for ice cream. This is a simple sentence, right? Or is it a complex sentence or a compound sentence? No, it's a simple sentence. I wanted to go to the movies because it was my turn to pick. All of those are simple sentences put together into something that looks like it could be a compound complex sentence, but it's not quite there. Next one, did you get my message? I wanted to see if you could go to the store for some okra, but not frozen. Again, a series of simple sentences. And then finally, if we go too far, we can turn around, we can just turn around at the next exit, the Britain Road exit, and we won't be too late. There is a trick sentence. And the last one, did you catch it? If you said it's if we go too far, you are correct because that is not a sentence. That is a dependent clause or a sentence fragment. And just because you have the punctuation of a period and then a capital W following it does not mean that it's a sentence. So that was a little trick for you to see if you've been paying attention to all the sentence lessons. Hopefully you're still with me. Let's go make them compound complex. All right, so the first one. Here's what we're going to do to make it compound complex. We're going to take that first simple sentence, we argued last night, and put a comma there instead of a period, because we're not wanting to completely end the thought. We want to tie it to, because it was my turn to pick, that dependent clause with that independent clause. And then we want to put another comma here to make our punctuation correct and finish it with, but you wanted to go for ice cream. So if you remember me talking about coordinating conjunctions, that's what but is here, followed by the comma. You could take out the but and you wanted to go for ice cream would be its own simple sentence. But because we're making it part of a compound complex sentence and we need two independent clauses, we argued last night, you wanted to go for ice cream, and we need to tie it into these dependent clauses, and I wanted to go to the movies, we have a lot going on here. So let's break it down again. We argued last night, comma, because it was my turn to pick. Because it was my turn to pick is our dependent clause. It cannot stand on its own. But you wanted to go for ice cream, comma, and I wanted to go to the movies. Again, coordinating conjunction and comma, coordinating conjunction, but and comma. Take those coordinating conjunctions out, and these are independent clauses, just like we argued last night. But because we want all of this to be together as one thought that is stronger together as a compound complex sentence than a string of simple sentences, we're tying them together with those coordinating conjunctions and commas. So again, that's a lot in that compound complex single sentence, but it's working together because it tells a whole story, little mini story in one sentence. All right, so let's go to the next one. It's a little shorter and hopefully a little easier for you to digest. Did you get my message about going to the store? We need some okra, but not the frozen type. So did you get my message about going to the store is our independent clause. We don't need a question mark here because we're tying it to the next independent clause and dependent clause. So instead we use a semicolon, and we don't need a coordinating conjunction here because we're using semicolon and not the comma. So then we go into, we need some okra. Again, another independent clause, comma, coordinating conjunction, but not the frozen type. But not the frozen type is the dependent clause that cannot stand on its own in this sentence. So you see how it's working here? All right, final one. This is the one that had the trick in it of if we go too far. Well, guess what? We just took that out. Took out that trick. We don't need the trick in here. We got enough going on in these compound complexes. We don't need tricks. We ain't got time for tricks. So we just made it into a compound complex sentence by saying we can turn around at the next exit, comma, the Britain Road exit, comma, and we won't be too late. So the dependent clause here is the Britain Road exit. The independent clause comes after this coordinating conjunction and comma, and we won't be too late. So you take out that and we won't be too late can stand on its own. And then we can turn around at the next exit. So we took out the trick of if we go too far, right? But is the final sentence really a compound complex sentence? Let's go back to the definition of a compound complex sentence to see if it fits. It's a sentence with two or more independent clauses and one or more subordinate clauses. So let's see, let's do some counts and let's bring some math into the game. Two or more independent clauses. Do we have that here? We can turn around at the next exit. Independent clause, that's one. And we won't be too late. That's another independent clause, that's two. So we have our two. Do we have our one, at least one dependent clause? The Britain Road exit, that is our dependent clause. So ding, ding, ding. This qualifies as a compound complex sentence. I wasn't going to trick y'all too much again, but just make sure you're looking out for those things so you know what type of sentence you're using, especially when you're getting into the compound and the complex and then trying to combine it to compound complex. You want to make sure you're using the right one for the right situation in your writing. Key takeaway, because we talked about a lot, there was a lot of words thrown at you. We threw some numbers in there too. If you don't remember anything else from this lecture, remember this. Compound complex sentences should be used to connect ideas, not to try and say everything in a single sentence. Y'all just don't even know how many times I see a lot going on in a sentence and it's saying way too much, doing way too much, and it's not even a compound complex sentence at that point. It's just an overloaded, bloated sentence. And we do not want to have a bloated sentence, especially when we're trying to write those beautiful paragraphs that we'll get into in the spring. So make sure you're using compound complex sentences correctly and sparingly and varying it up. Put some simple sentences in there, some compound, some complex, and then throw in some compound complex. But don't make every single sentence in your paragraph compound complex. You don't have to say it all in one breath, y'all. You can take a pause. You can breathe, and then you can move on to your next thought. All right, as always, if you need more, if you're not too sick of sentences yet, follow us on Instagram at A Little More Truth. Go to our website at alittlemoretruthllc.com or subscribe to our newsletter, and we will see you in the next one.